So welcome to the Head Guy podcast. This podcast has been sponsored by Cards in Qatar. Now, if you're listening, you won't see me holding up a huge big banner. But if you're watching, you've just seen that. Cards in Qatar, the number one website for your cards, greeting cards, birthday cards, anniversary cards, leaving cards, huge big leaving cards, congratulation cards, Eid cards, Ramadan cards, you name it. Go to the website cardsinqatar.com. And our other sponsor is the Marhaba. It's the number one destination guide for Qatar. And my special guest, because he can talk about Marhaba, because he's been here as long as I have, is Steve Mackie. Steve, why do you look like you're like a rabbit in headlights? You're just like...
Of course. We talk about this so many times. Going onto a podcast is just one of those things. You get quite nervous, right? You're kind of
but hold on. You run two podcasts, so how...
I still get nervous to this day. Anyway, to this day.
Talk about Marhaba.
Oh, absolutely fantastic. Marhaba, Hillary. That's all that I've got to say. And I saw that wonderful clip the other day where she met the Emir's daughter, right?
Really?
Yeah. Didn't you see this?
Look, I'm not on social media that much.
Unbelievable.
I have people to be on social media.
And she just looked up and she said I look at your Marhaba all the time.
Well,
yeah.
That's stamp of approval.
Oh, it was
from the top.
Yeah, from the lady, from the shaker from her name evades me, which is terrible right now. But there again, everybody's a name. You're going to have to remind me your name.
Yeah, it's age.
But it was a lady from, it was a shaker from Qatar Foundation.
Okay.
So
don't ask me because I'm not very good with names either.
Massive. I felt
Shaker
so
Miasa?
proud. Miasa. Yeah, I think so. Shaker Miasa. And it was just a wonderful moment for Hillary. We both know her. She does wonderful things and she helps everybody.
So Hillary is the inspiration behind, is the powerhouse, is the owner of Marhaba. She's been running it for over 20 odd years.
Yeah.
I need to get her on the podcast and find out how many years. But she's a powerhouse.
Yeah. Yeah,
she's non-stop.
And she's really somebody that you can go to at any time and ask her any kind of questions or advice.
Yeah. Lovely. Yeah. So, Mr. Steve Mackie, welcome back. So, Steve Mackie, we're not going to go into his history because we'll be here for hours and hours because he loves telling his stories. So, we're literally going to take it from here in the now. But if you want to find out more information about Mr. Steve Mackie, you can either Google him because he's all over the place, or you can check out Your Onion podcast, and I don't know what episode number it is, but he's on a recent episode, so he's not that far back. If you go to Your Onion podcast, and you can hear an in-depth conversation about his life.
And that was an in-depth conversation. I really enjoyed that one. That was something that I go back to just to kind of level myself. Yeah. So I'm helping you viewing figures.
No, not viewing figures. That was...
was it audio?
That was just audio. This is video. Anyway, Mr. Steve Mackie, welcome.
Thank you so much indeed. And this is a privilege.
No, it's great to... Well, I had to have you on. It's a new brand new podcast, so I had to have my man on this show because I want to talk about sales and I want to talk about your podcast as well, the importance of podcasts. So, give us a brief introduction to your sales history, to where you're at now.
And it has some relevance because I'm going to start completely in a different way.
No, that's great. I want you to start any way that you feel.
I was a chef when I was 16.
So how does that relate to sales?
I'll tell you. Because I was always in the kitchen. I was always in the kitchen. And I had that. I just wanted to be out front. I just wanted to tell people or sell. It was just a natural thing. I always wanted to kind of sell something or a service.
The actual food that you were delivering, or you didn't care?
The thing with it is, my father used to be a performer. He was he got to number 10 in the hit parades back when in 67, 68.
Hold on, you've never told me this story.
Nah, he was a
So what was the song?
See You in Dreamland Tonight.
How does it go?
See you in dreamland tonight. Anyway, that's it.
And what was the band? Was it a band?
It was called Chris Collin and the Cougars. And the Cougars went on to do big things in the States, and my father took his responsibilities to a certain stage with...
Hold on, what?
The Cougars went on to the States.
And he didn't follow?
No.
Why?
Because I was coming along. I was going to be coming along. So... yeah, he kind of, when I look back at it, yeah, there's some good things about him. Yeah, really good things.
Wow.
He was brilliant, and he would sing. My sister's Caroline, and he would where he would go to the. Remember in the old days we had those clubs, those community things.
Yes.
And you would have hundreds of people.
Mind the camera. Before we started the show, I said, look, you're here with your hands and your arms, and I said, look, just please
be careful.
Not that camera.
So we used to go to these wheel tapper and shunters. You know, the kind of things where it was like a social club that you all went to. We were young kids back then, young, and I mean young. But my dad used to, because my sister was called Caroline, he used to, Sweet Caroline.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So whenever, with the World Cup that we've just been on,
so that just brought a lot of memories back.
Brought a lot of memories back, because that's what he would always sing about my sister. So he was a performer. So I was a little bit taken back, because I didn't know where was my performance.
You didn't ever fancy. So what did he play in the band?
Singer.
Oh, he was the front man.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. He was.
And he stayed, and they went over to the US.
Yeah, they went over to the US.
So was it only one hit that they had? It
got to number 10 in the hit parade,
yeah,
and then it got banned, because in those days you couldn't have. There was on the back side, the B side,
yeah,
they had Swan Lakes. They'd done their own version of Swan Lake.
Oh, and they weren't allowed to do that.
Yeah, it got banned. Got banned.
On.
So that was back then.
Anyway, if I googled it, could I find it?
Yeah, I'm going to show you after.
Okay. So if we can put it on this podcast, we'll put it on the podcast. So people can listen to it.
It was something that I'm always proud for him for it. And yeah, he did it. He was there. So that was really good.
So he was a performer. Was he kind of a performer in the house, or?
No, I can't.
It was just a stage thing that.
Just purely a stage thing, and to this day, bless him, and I do say this, bless him, because he still goes round to old people's homes now.
Oh, he's still around. Yeah. And he still sings that song.
He goes round to the old people's homes, because
bless him.
Yeah.
Can you ask him? Are you still in touch with your dad?
No.
Oh, so you can't ask him to give us a little version of it.
No, I maybe I can.
Come on.
I'll see.
Maybe it's that time.
Yeah, maybe I'll send him this. Yeah.
So anyway, let's go back to being in the kitchen.
So being in the kitchen.
You wanted to get out.
I was always a salesperson. I was always a joker. I always used to perform. Every time that my food went onto the hot plate, that was my performance. And that's the way that I saw it. So buffets, going to people's houses, talking at the barbecue, not just serving, here's your food. It was like, nice to see you. It's nice to see you again. So there was always a performer inside me. And then, it was just that way inclined. You always and that just kind of developed in me into this stage where I can remember when I used to be a chef at a golf club, and dear me, I needed to get out front. And I think that's where my life...
That was the turning point.
That was the turning point. Because I'd always had the determination, but I just, nobody would give me a chance. It's one of those things when I want to be a salesperson. Where are you going to get the experience from? Who's going to give me that experience?
Yeah. But did someone see it in you at the golf club? Or was it just you that literally,
I just developed it. I just developed it. And then you in life you always have these strengths, and then you come to realize it as you get older, just how good those strengths are. And it's only where you just keep on practicing, but you do it without even, you know me, I do it without even thinking about it. It's just second nature to me now. So those things they're installed into me. I don't want to use these techniques or that, because then you're false, right?
But have you gone down that road where they have shown you sales techniques and it's gone against the grain of how you felt?
NLP, I don't like this. It's kind of taking advantage of situation, and I know that there's some positive stuff. So everybody that's doing NLP, please, I'm not dishing it. Okay, I'm kind of, it's got its purpose, but I don't ever want to. I've got it naturally. I've never been taught anything on those fronts, and I've got that naturally. But it's naturally for that customer, consumer, or person that needs my help and support, not because I'm going to take advantage of or reading those signs to be able to close that deal. I was in door-to-door for, I've told you this so many times, nearly 10 years, and that was an experience in itself, because you had to be hard, you had to be strong, you had the pressure that you were on. We had 1,500 guys that would go out on a daily basis, and you had to find a product, and they were only going to get paid commission that day. So if they had a bad day, they potentially could lose. So your obligation, the weight on your shoulders to bring that great product in, was unbelievable. So,
but I want to stop you, because as a performer, you want to please people.
Yeah.
But if you're doing door to door, you're going to get the no's. You're going to get people that aren't impressed by your performance.
Yeah.
How did that make you feel? How? Because all you want to do is to please people.
You go to the door. The times that I used to do it, I was having a chat with somebody about sales the other day, and I was telling them how I used to react. So the door to door, I didn't do. I was the one that signed the clients up, but there was times that I had to go out and I'd done door to door, and you would think that I was overweight at the time, quite heavily. I'm still overweight, but I was quite big then.
You look normal.
I was big then,
right?
So you'd think, they're not going to like me today because I'm fat, I'm overweight.
Oh, so those little voices in your head were already...
God, the demons. And, they don't like my tie today, it's a different colour. Maybe it's just because they're... Okay, get
And this
up.
was even before you reached the door?
Even before you reach the door. You kind of... We used to call it... there is a... I'm not going to say this, but curb backside. But it was something else beginning with an A. So,
right, yeah.
And that was when you sat on the curb, and it was like, oh, my day is so bad. Oh, my God. I don't know what I'm going to do today. This is going to be a real struggle. So that was what we used to call that. And you had to get yourself over it very quickly, because you had to it was a numbers game. You had to speak to 90 people that day, 100 people, to get 10 sales. It was as simple as that. And whatever people say, that's a numbers game. You might be brilliant at what you do, but not everybody's going to want what you got. So that's something that you come to terms with. That was that. And when I used to do I needed to get the best promotions possible. So the likes of Stir Century, Cineworld, Esporta Health and Fitness, Domino's, Papa John's, Perfect Pizza, they were all of our national clients. I got told to get out of. I got chucked out 5 times, and she'll know this. I hope Domino's in the UK listen to this, because I remember being chucked out of their head office in Milton Keynes 5 times because they didn't want to do door to door. Never wanted to do door to door. And the only way, because I was travelling around the whole of the UK, I would slowly but surely go into each kind of franchise, and I would say, would you like our services? And they would give me their feedback, and then I would put it into some type of report, and I'd say, Debbie, her name was Debbie Domino's, I used to call her, and I said, Debbie, I've got something else to share with you. And security guard chucked me out again. But I kept on doing it until Domino's was probably our biggest client within the UK.
So you were responsible for those people that went round with those Domino's Are those little vouchers things?
Yeah, exactly. It was customer loyalty. It was the human commercial. Because back then, if you look at it, it was the biggest human commercial, okay? Just think of all the people that we've got, all our sales guys going out to talk about. Not everybody's going to buy the voucher, but you're still going to put a great story over about the client. And when you look at it, well, I've got somebody saying on LinkedIn, on my LinkedIn profile, that looked up and said that you could possibly, allegedly, say that 1 year Domino's had a 21% increase in their stock market price, and we promoted virtually all their stores that year. So there was a correlation to that. I'm not saying that that's what we would done, because those franchisees were fantastic, because we were going to increase their turnover by anywhere from 5 to 10,000 per week. Now just imagine that in their business, that you were going to virtually double their turnover. So there was many aspects that you had to do. You had to look after them as a client, make sure that they were looked after, but also be quite strict with them to say, hey, listen, on Friday you're going to be really, really busy. Do not take the phone off the hook. Because if you do, then this is going to be a negative side, and we don't want this to be negative for you. We want you to embrace it. And don't see these people with a card as a second-rate citizen. These are people that's a loyalty program that wants your product, and if you do a great job, they're going to be with you forever.
Absolutely.
So when you look at it, they're still doing the same loyalty programs. Not with us anymore, but because we're not there anymore. But they're still doing it after 20 years. They're still doing the same loyalty programs that we put in place.
Wow!
So you look at it, and it was, and that was from a sales perspective. I went to an advertisement that was no bigger than this, that said sales experience, sales position, no experience necessary, and I applied for that. And I went, the guy, Jez Casey, looked up to me, the guy that interviewed me, with a guy called Marcus Candy. I'll never forget these things. Said, you'd be a great lister. You could earn £1,500 per week. And I was like, mate, if you can give me 500, I'll bite your arm off. I will bite your arm off. There were some times, and I'm not being bragging, but there were some times that I was pulling in between 7, maybe 8,000 per week. But in the early days, it was a big job. So in the early days, oh my word, I had one office doing 1,500 pieces a week, and it was hard. Mark Cox was the best office in the whole country, if not in the world, from an advertising perspective. So he was really special. He's still in the company today. I don't think he'll mind me saying, but he's made his millions through it, 100%. What a special guy. What a special guy he was. But we were a partnership between us, and he was really special. He could sell, and now he could sell anything.
Okay, all right. Look, we're getting away from. Look, we're going down the big story. I want to just know about you and the sales bit. You know, did they teach you? Did they have training to improve your sales, or was it literally go out and do what you knew? Great. Because just backing that up with what I've just said to you, you had to learn the hard way. Literally go out.
You just had to go out. I never had any experience. All I knew is that I was a chef, so I knew the profit and loss when it comes to the food side of things. Mm-hmm. I knew from a service perspective what to do. I knew where the bin in a food establishment, that bin is going to eat your profits, your bottom line profits.
Nice.
You better be checking what's going in that bin.
Yeah.
And if you're throwing too much away, you need a good kick, because that needs to be looked at on a daily basis. So
but let me stop you there. Don't, like, restaurants serve the staff with the food as well? How does that? Is that still classed as the bin?
No,
or is
because
that a perk?
No, because you with all your how you adjust all your figures, we'll look up and say there's an allotment there for food. So I'm putting, when I'm doing these things and I'm costing the menu, there's going to be an element in there for staff.
Right.
So I've always got something in there, but you can't justify the bin. You can potentially do, but I was in a place the other day, and somebody was obviously cooking a steak, and they on the grill, and they realised that they overcooked it. They picked it up with their tongs. They threw it in the bin.
What, at a restaurant?
It was. I'm not going to say where, obviously, but it was. And I'm like, and then it all brought these things flooding back to me. So in all of this stuff, you've just got to be aware of all these things. So I was aware of all of these things.
Yeah.
I was a salesperson at heart. I would never let a person leave our place, our establishment, our golf club, without saying good morning to them, without introducing myself, without kind of doing that little stuff that not everybody else does. There are people that do those things, but you've got to be recognised. You've got, from a sales perspective, they buy you more than they're buying the product. So you've got to leave them with something. Hey, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but what I am good at, you better be on your toes, because there's some people that's out there that's got natural ability that you just can't even come close to. So what are those other things that you're going to have in your armory that you're going to have to go to compete with? And sometimes it's just working an extra hour a day. It might be 2 hours, because over a week, over a day, over a week, over a month, over a year, you're going to kick some backside. That's where you're going to stand out. And sometimes where we don't realise is niceness doesn't cost anything. Thinking about somebody else and somebody else's position, preempt those negatives. You know what they're going through. Okay, so you know what they're going through. Just highlight the points that you're going to be different with. And you're going to stand out above everybody else. And I think that's for me is where I come from. Is it that I'm not actually thinking about the sale. I'm thinking about the journey, the process, and it can be, there can be many times. I come into this meeting, this podcast today. You've got a wonderful lady that works for you, and I know we joke about this, but there's disasters happening. Things are going wrong for me today, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, this is just, I got to turn it around because I've left my lead for my computer. I couldn't do the jobs that I was going to do, and oh no, I'm just starting to spiral. And then all of a sudden, you saw this great big smile from her, and then I'm ready for the podcast, because there's things that I'm looking for that's going to make her day or make mine. So those are the things, and that's sales, because you've got to be, every time we're coming back to performing, okay, you've got to be a performer.
But it's funny, because when you were doing sales in the old days, the thinking wasn't like you were thinking. It was very much focus on the sale, focus on the end goal, etc., etc. But you were thinking more about serving the potential client, and that you were thinking about how you could make their day, how you can make them happy, etc., etc. And you've carried that all the way through. I've seen that, and we've been watching. Crystal, my salesperson. We've been sitting watching LinkedIn training courses, and it's very much about the journey. But in the old days, it wasn't. It was how to manipulate, twist, say the right thing, etc., etc. Because I used to hate people that were in sales, because it was so cringeable, it was so obvious. But with you, I don't feel it.
No.
You've always been that, bubbly, friendly, even though, sometimes, do I say genuine?
Yeah. I kind of, I won't say it hurts me, but it's not, I don't have enough brain capacity to double guess. I really don't.
No, you do, Steve. You put yourself down too much, but no.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to the older days.
Yes.
Okay. I remember that we were in, I think it was about 35 plus countries all over the world. And with what I did, I would like to think, or I was always aiming for it. There was a guy called Richard Blaine. He was always somebody that was in my sights, because he was seen as being the best lister in the world, from my perspective. Mm-hmm. And that's what I wanted to be. But he was so good at what he'd done from a real business corporate level. I was better than him in certain areas, that I would leave him for dust. But I was always competing with him. Now, when you come to sales and you've got 1,500 people going out for you on a daily basis, there's your feelings really can't come into it. you've got a job to do. Otherwise, our guys, our offices, are going to lose 50% of their staff overnight. Because if they have a bad day in the office, it's going to destroy that office because everybody's on commission only. So if 2 days of not people making money, that's a real big one.
Yeah, but when we've been watching the sales training courses, you know, they clearly say the worst salesperson is the desperate salesperson that comes across as needy, as desperate, that they need that sale. So when that pressure is on the salesperson to make the sale, how can they not show that?
Sometimes you lose your mojo. Okay, I called it mojo. Sometimes you lose that, and what you do is you look at that place and you think, they're not going to want to buy from me today. No, they're not. And as soon as you realise, now that could last for a day, where you could just sit in car parks all day long looking at the place, or looking at places where you've lost your mojo to go in there. And now what I used to do, I used to get myself out of those on two ways. One, I used to either go in to see the clients that I've always worked with or went really well for, or I would go into an office that you had 50 people in their offices screaming and shouting about their opportunity that day. And I would be in there 5-10 minutes and I would be running out there. My mojo was back.
All right.
Let me get into that place.
So you just fed from the energy?
Just
to give you a boost?
Fed from the energy to give me that boost. And let me tell you about when you speak to clients, where I had a client that increased his turnover by £15,000 per week. I've had clients, and it was called Vega. I remember going in. She had her son in the pushchair, and she's rocking her son in the pushchair, and she's serving and oh my word! And I looked at her. I thought, I've got to help you. I know. And I said to her that day, I said, when you're ready, you need to come and sit with me, because I promise you, I'm going to change your life today. I'll never forget it. They've still got 4 restaurants in the UK. One of them's turning over 80,000 per week.
Wow.
From that one that they took one big gamble with. And I knew, Vega Restaurant, St. Albans, never forget it. I knew that we'd change your life today. Now, there was other times that I would go in there, my back was up against a wall, you better turn a promo around pretty quick.
How did you do that?
So I'd go into an area, I'd find the 10 best restaurants or the 10 best hospitality or bowling, cinema, you name it. So I would go in there, I would talk to people, I would do my market research first, I would find out the ones, and then I would go into there, I would start at the top, and I would go in and say, hey, have you got 5 minutes? It's just not going to cost you any money unless I bring people through the door. That's the best way, right? If I can bring people through the door and we can discount those people where it's going to be, then that's the best form of advertising, right? And they'd say, okay. And I'd get to sit down with them.
Let's go.
And then we'd go through that. I'm not sure. Hey, listen, you've got until the end of today, okay? Because I've got the 10 restaurants that I know I want to work with. You're number 1. But I'm going to find somebody in that 10 that I'm going to work with today. You are the one that I want to work with. If not, I'm going to go to the competitor, and here's some references that you can call upon to see what it's done for them.
Mm-hmm.
But please, I want you to be that one in this area.
Nice.
Now, it was a hard one, right?
Are you going to carry on, or
no? That was that. Yeah.
No, and that's perfect. That's what I want to hear. How have you brought that now here to the Middle East? Because that's why we're here. That's why you're on the show. Is, with the experience that you had, how did you feel that you were ready to take on the Middle East? 13
years ago, we made the biggest mistakes that anybody could make. Coming to a different country, thinking that the world was made, that Qatar was made of gold, and a
lot of people do.
And we were going to work the emotion, which people make the biggest mistake with. They don't go from their business side of things; they go with emotion. We were no exception, and we fell over 3 or 4 times, and it cost us, I would say, back then, £30,000.
Why were you going in with the attitude like, well, we know what we're doing, we're the best, we're from the UK, and this is going to work anyway?
We were doing bodyguarding for sheikhs from Abu Dhabi in London. We were looking after Ronnie Scott's from a business development development perspective. We were doing all their branding. We had the website that we within 6 months.
Where did it go wrong at the beginning then?
Because I thought I was Richard Branson. I was good at certain areas.
Did you have the long hair at the time?
Oh, I was. We're receding a bit more now, but that. Sometimes you just don't run too quickly. So we came here. I thought I could manage the two, but unfortunately, I set my business up where I needed to be with those clients. I needed that personal relationship, and when you don't do that personal relationship because you were here, that goes.
Yeah.
And you were paying. The people were paying good money because they wanted your advice. And so that was another big mistake that I made. Now I can say after 13 years that was the best investment I've ever made. I've made those mistakes, but one of the biggest things is I've got to a stage now where we're experts in all 4 jurisdictions. We do company formation. We help those people with those things. We will like complicated. The more complicated, the better. That's what we want, because we want people to come to us where money matters, time matters. And we want to make sure that we solve those issues, okay? And
but how are you getting the message out there? That's my next question. You know, now that you've learned from 13 years of being here in the region, what is it? How are you selling yourselves? Because you're not door to door anymore.
I think the biggest thing, you know, that we're involved in the startup ecosystem here quite heavily, and I love every second of it. And one of the biggest things when people are trying for that startup, they're trying to raise money from investors or VCs or whatever it may be. One of the biggest things that the VC says or the investor says is, I want to see your team. Your team is so important. And we've got to a stage now, and I'm going to say this now because I keep on pinching myself when I listen to this, is we've got 10 employees now. We've got 10 people that rely on us. I've got the office back again. If I need to focus, all I've got to do is start talking to the people in our team, and it gives me that momentum back. So these are the points that help me along. Where do I go from now? We've got a team that I'm so proud of it. You know Felix, he's my business partner. I met him at a startup event where it was the first startup event where I didn't really want to be there and I didn't think I was worthy. But there was the people that I've dealt with from that one event, I'm still dealing with them now after 8 years. So there's some magnificent things that happen. So most of ours is referral. Everything from our side is referral. And then
So how has that changed you? Being that salesperson, if everything is coming to you via referral, how does that, when you turn up?
You've still got to be good, because you've got competitors out there that are waiting, that are just champing at the bit to kind of, you know the saying, stand still, you're moving backwards. And that's what keeps me going. We work 7 days a week. Now, people might say, oh, you've got to have some time off. We do that because we want to do that. We don't have to do that. We want to do that. So if somebody calls me and says, I want to talk about my concept, my idea, I can't do it in a week because I'm working. Okay, well, tell me when you're available. And so those are the things that we look at. And the one thing with me is it's very difficult. I don't know where the pot of gold is. So what you've got to do is you've got to keep on working and keep on hoping that fate, and I know that's luck. People say, luck. Everybody needs luck. Yeah, but you've got to earn it. You've got to keep pushing forward. If luck is only going to come your way if you keep on pushing yourself out there. If you're putting your hand out to somebody, that you're going to meet somebody new that could actually change your course of your business that day. So these are the things that I work on now. And of course, I've got everybody counting on me to be a salesperson. I've still got to be a salesperson. I've still got to get out there and do the thing. It doesn't stop. I sometimes, but it would be boring if I just had free time on my hand.
A little free time now and again.
Yeah, it's. I don't know. I kind of, this is my love. This is my passion. Helping.
And I just want to stop you. What makes you different to all the others that your competitors? If you stood back and we've got a friend called Jeffrey, and he says, Steve, I still don't know what you do.
Okay. So if I had an easy way of explaining what I'm good at or what I do, then I would be singing it from the rafters. I don't want to talk too much. I don't think anybody could look up and say, yeah, he's full of it. It's like he's just, because you don't know me. If you say that, yeah, he's full of talk, you don't know me at all. You really don't know the effort and the determination and the belief. And there's a lot more people out there. I know that you're one of those people because you gave me that opportunity with the podcast, which is a massive, massive part of my life. You gave me that opportunity. And so I know you're exactly the same. So I just want to keep on doing that for the rest of my life. It's just one of those things.
Well, let's go down that road with regards to the podcast. How did that... Why do you... I know you love doing podcasts just like me. I love doing podcasts. But how has that helped you on your journey?
Oh my word, the biggest thing that we've talked about this, I don't know how many times, because when people see you doing these things and you get people coming up to you and saying, I watch your podcast, it's wonderful, honestly, you really are smashing it. And the guests, come on, look at the guests. I can think on several, the guests that we've had that has been emotional for them. That's had tears in their eyes, and you're thinking, oh my God, what have we done? But it's been actually the reverse, where they're looking at it and they're thinking that what they've actually achieved, and they can go away with something that's really special. And when you're doing that podcast, there's other things that you're doing also. When you're commenting on different areas and the benefits and what's there, you're creating those ripples that will be lasting, because it's going to be out there and people can empathize with it. They can look at it and say, that's what I'm going through. Oh my word, that seems so simple. And normally it is. But where does the podcast take me? Oh, sorry. And again, you look up and we say this again. When people are envious of what you do, it's so difficult because they take so much of your mind space there and then. But you know the journey. It's not an overnight thing. So when you see people come along and they go, because it's not easy. And everybody says to me, the first thing that people say to me, have you monetized it yet? Have you monetized it yet?
Always. Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know how you can, what is it? Success. How do you monetize that? How can you put it into, it's like, and then you want me to monetize on somebody else's story. It's like, how can I do this? So these are the things in which we're trying to get to a stage now where we can monetize it. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but it's not.
Is that, looking at the grand scheme of things, is that important for you guys when it comes to the podcast?
Luckily, the business is there.
Exactly. So I see I had the same feedback at the beginning is, are you monetizing it? Are you making any money, etc.? And I was always trying to explain that this isn't about money. It's about building connections. It's building relationships. But actually, down the line, because we started Doha Heat in 2014, Urania in 2016, and now this one, that I love the energy that it gives me doing a podcast. It's like a battery. It's like, you think of the business, you're a battery, everyone's a battery that plugs into your business. And I feel that my battery fires on all cylinders when I've got a podcast going. And I don't care anything else. It's just the fact that it's giving me energy, which then vibrates throughout the company.
Stefan, you look at we're the best of friends. We argue, we go through things.
Well, that's what friends are for.
We're the best of friends. And I've watched your journey from the very beginning. And what you've done with the podcast is the ripples that you're leaving and the ripples that you've got. My only frustration is that you sometimes walked away from them because of all these doubts. But we
all have them.
Yeah, of course.
We've all been there.
Of course. But you are Mr. Podcast. You were the one, and John, I remember you starting it with John. You were both the ones that started the ripples.
Yeah.
And this was going back, so that you were so far ahead of the game back then. Podcasts, what were podcasts? And it was like, but you did something, and you did it for the community. You did it. You were bringing people up that was making a difference. And I think that you've been the shining light when it comes to this stuff. And you're going to be on our podcast very soon.
When I get the invitation, you know.
Not as good as this setup, but it's kind of ours is very much.
Hey, you're there.
I kind of, as I said to you before, I did a podcast the other day, and I won't bring their name up because they'll think it's a disaster. But I put the battery. I didn't check the battery. I was checking on the sounds, and the film was there, and I got enough space on the CD the cards, and I only had 15 minutes on the battery of the video, the camera.
But that was for you, so
that was for me.
Wasn't too bad.
So these are all the things that we go through because we love what we do.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people out there has just got to do, is just love what they do. And that's easy for me to say, right? It's easy.
Why?
Because that's what you've got to do. I sometimes feel...
No, but you've been on a journey, so it's not easy for you to say, or it's easy for you to say now that you're further down the line. But there was a lot of conversations in the early days where it was just like, I don't know, not humble enough, you know, I'm not good enough, or you would hear from people that would be like, oh, maybe you should say it this way, maybe you should do it that way, maybe, you know.
The imposter syndrome, that really does, somebody tells me it's not demons, it's cockroaches. They'll know who they are, but you constantly got these cockroaches that runs and scampers around your... But I'm not killing them, but I'm slowly being able to brush them aside because of the way that, maybe it is because of my age, but it's something that you have to deal with in some way. You've got to kind of look at the positives, look at the things that make... Remember, going back to the same thing, go to a client that you've worked really well with, or go and see what you've created. And that's where
that's the
energy.
That's the energy. Frequency.
Yeah. That's the thing. And you've got to be able to do that. You've got to be. You've got to be. I know what I'm doing. I know that it's got value. I know I'm helping people.
But when it comes to, sorry to interrupt, but when it comes to monetization that everyone is, you know, fixated on, and numbers, etc., what's your thinking these days? Is it important for you?
Let me say something beforehand.
Steve, tell me.
In Saudi Arabia, okay, there was a podcast. I think they raised 44 million. Say that again, 44 million, because of the work they were doing. I don't think me and you, have really got to the stage where we can build value from this, right? And this is the thing. What do we do? How do we do it? What have we got to do to be able to not demand? We're gonna put some stuff out there, but how can we get to that stage? And I think that all we've got to do is just keep on putting the foot in front of the other, because there's going to be people that when we do work it out, there's going to be people. You are so lucky. Really? Come on. Luck didn't come into it, really. Luck was not something that was... It was all those cockroaches running around, and kind of you just got to keep on sweeping them away.
Now, yes, I was the one that came to you and introduced you. You know, I wanted a sports podcast, and you were doing your business on the side with the football. Yeah. What was it called?
Street Soccer Qatar.
Street Soccer Qatar. So I thought, here's a man that could, you know, potentially use a podcast. Let's hope, you know, he seems bubbly, you know, he would be perfect. And you took up the challenge. You took up the, what do you call it? The baton. And you went, yes, all right, I'll do it. And you've run with it, and it's been an amazing journey. And to, you know, visit your website, it's professionally put together. You got how many episodes now that you've done?
I think it's about 130. And now we've just started another one called I Want to Grow.
Yes, all right. Look, you're jumping the gun here, and that's what I was leading on to.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
But that was me coming to you, and you took the baton. But did it... Because I'm just curious why you started the second one, because was it more okay, yes, I run with it. I can see the benefits. I can, the potential, etc., etc. And I'm meeting interesting people, fascinating people. I'm listening to great stories. But was that sales? Was that business element missing? And that's why you felt there's something missing, and I need to do something that really resonates with me. And is this podcast the one? Bum bum bum.
They said, we'll keep this a secret. They're virtually both the same. One is for sports, the other one is for stories, for people's stories.
Could you not amalgamate the two, or you just want?
I think so. I think it will be. I think it will amalgamate. I think it will. Have I done it from a business perspective? There's a part of it that I have, because I want businesses to come and shout. The Middle East region is just an incredible place to. Everybody's got this wrong impression, or they've had the wrong impression. Fair play to Qatar for the World Cup.
Yeah, but hold on, that was the media just feeding everyone. Yeah. And you know how we, in the West, we're fed by the media, and we believe everything that we're fed. And yes, my impression was that it was, outback, mud huts, etc., etc. And then when we arrived in 2006, it was just like, what? Yeah, this is beautiful.
Beautiful. And so there's many things that have got great, and people just don't know about it yet. So that's the thing that we've got an obligation to do, and we've got an obligation.
No, but the World Cup did open people's eyes.
Oh dear me!
That literally, magnified just what Qatar was all about, and the Middle East.
And but you look at it and go, well, the one thing with Qatar is they're not standing still.
No,
it's very difficult to grow a business. The biggest thing to grow a business is to expand. So can you imagine what it's like for a country, and making a decision here with the repercussions of 50 other things over here?
That's interesting when you put it in that perspective, that about a business, and then we know how hard it is to run a business, let alone how to run a country. And you've got all these people that are literally your employees. And we know how hard it is to find the right employees in the first place.
You've got employees that want a pat on the back, that want to be told off, that want to be... You've got all those things.
Everyone.
And you've got to tell some employees what they've got to do on a daily basis. Do you know how much hard work that takes? And these are the things that I've always been working on my own kind of... I see something, I do it. I work on my own. For any employee that I've ever worked with, I'm always thinking about, it's my business. But if you've got a country, oh my word, I don't know where I would begin.
Absolutely. And while you were talking, an image of the school playground is that, Qatar was like the young student that turns up. And then you've got the older students picking on them because, they've been on the playground for years and years, so they know the way of the playground.
Yep.
Where Qatar was the new boy, and he's having to work it all out, and the older boys are picking on him by the mistakes or the things that he's chosen to do or she's chosen to do.
And we can all get back and have a comment or give our opinion.
No, everyone's got an opinion.
Everybody's got an opinion. But it's like if you just stopped and thought how you would go about it, oh my word, I think I'd go and lock myself in a room somewhere.
Well, it would be a different world if people did that.
Because you can't run away from some of these decisions. There's nowhere to hide.
And there's no guidebook. There's no rule book of the right or wrong way of doing things.
There is family, okay? It's like there is no rule book in that to bring kids up or to there's none. There is none. So I compliment. I compliment Qatar in such a big way, because I think, and people say, oh yeah, you're kind of, but no, I kind of, it's a wonderful life, right? It's there are frustrations, but there are frustrations all over the world.
No, but I want to stop you. What was that? People say, oh yeah, well, you didn't really.
Grass is always greener, right? On the other side, okay. And I think that we get to a stage where, because of the way that we've got it here, whether we kind of think that it's always greener on the other side, and then it's easy.
Yeah, but when you say we've got it here, then who are they referring to? Because you and me work hard, we graft hard, just like anyone else. There is, as you say, it's not the roads are paved with gold. You literally have to work.
Yeah.
And it is not just handed to you.
Yep.
And there's systems in place that, are changing. And as the country is developing, we've been on that road where we've gone with the developments, we've gone with the changes. But I remember going to various ministries and having to follow a process where, I needed something signed, so I had to go behind the building to get it stamped by the T-boy, had to get my letter written by a type caravan that was down the road, etc., etc. We've watched it, because the powers above know that, systems need to be in place, system needs to be implemented, just like any brand new company.
Yeah.
You set up a company, you don't have systems in place. So it is either you're doing it all by yourself or you have people around you. But then slowly, as the company's building, then you start putting procedures and systems in place. And that's what Qatar has been doing.
Yep.
And we've been on that ride. It's never been easy.
Yep.
It's getting easier. People that come in now and they can see the changes and they relate it to where they come from and go, oh, wow. They've got a road system, they've got an infrastructure, etc., etc. But it all has to start somewhere.
All has to start somewhere, and I again, it's if there's the biggest thing for me is if there's a problem and everybody identifies that there's a problem. I've never known anything like it when all of a sudden they'll change it overnight, and they'll look up and say that's not working. We may have made a mistake. This is how we're going to put it right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's what I like about this place. I think it's a great place. Reputation. How important is it here in Qatar to build a reputation? Now, how long does a reputation take to build?
It takes years.
Years.
And that's what I fought against when I first started the business, was the fact that trying to convince people to work with me, even though I'm there naive, I've got my dreams. And I'm trying to convince people to buy into the dreams, but they would always say, how long have you worked here? Have you done any work for this company or this company? How long have you been in the region, etc., etc.? And it was just like, no, it doesn't matter. I know what I'm doing. Please trust me. But now I appreciate that. I respect that, because I've seen people come in and literally promise the world. Someone's bought into that and they've gone, right, thanks very much, and they disappear. And they, and so people have been hurt. People have been burnt. So there is, expectation now to literally, you have to prove your worth.
Okay, so you've got your reputation now. Okay, it must be easier for you.
No. No.
Exactly. I wanted you to say that.
No, but it is and it isn't. It is because people know you. People respect you because you're still here. And there isn't that conversation when you go into a meeting to prove who you are, because they know who you are. They followed you on that journey. And that through podcasts, through the work that you've done, etc., etc., or who you know. But so there is a respect there. So you don't have to go. So you're already on a few more steps compared to when you first started at the bottom.
Yeah. There's a saying going back to my 16-year-old. When I first started as a chef, I got told at that very early stage, you're only as good as your last meal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Only as good as your last meal.
Yeah.
So you
can't
be
rest on your laurels.
fire.
No. Yeah.
And you could produce thousands and thousands and thousands of these great meals experiences. One can end it all overnight. So that's sometimes the obligation that we've got, that we love what we do and we keep on pushing ourselves.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we want to sit back and say, hey,
no, you can't.
You cannot.
No, but it's funny. Before COVID, I think I was there. I was at the, I keep on going about my mountain. People have heard about my mountain, but I was at the top of the mountain and I thought, things were the best year in 2019. And I thought, yes, this is it. Reached it. Don't have to do anything. And then it all came crumbling down. All right, that wasn't due to me. But then when I look at the systems that I had in place and how I got my business out there, we were literally just feeding off referrals and inquiries. But we weren't going out there. We weren't selling ourselves. And that killed us during COVID.
But I hear your podcast now, and I think to myself, has he put that in the podcast for my benefit? Because I remember the one that you did the other week, and you said, I know that there's a lot of people that's trying to push me up this mountain. But
well, yeah, you were. You were there. It was you. This is the man that was trying to push me up the mountain. And it was just like, Steve, I can't.
But you
and
can't.
You tried anything to get me up that mountain.
And
it
I'm
was just
still
like,
going to keep on pushing you up the mountain.
No, I'm not at the bloody mountain anymore. I'm somewhere else.
I understand.
You can walk with me. No,
exactly.
You walk with me. Don't push me.
It's not.
You come on my journey.
There's a terminology that I've messed up here on. Okay, but I'm on this journey with you.
This is
I always want to work with you. I always want to walk with you. Because you're an inspiration.
And so are you. And you know.
You really are. And we're patting each other on the back now. But I think the biggest thing that I would say with everything, and this is where I think that sometimes we go wrong, is we don't build individuals. Instead of, we're thinking about the ultimate, that unicorn. Oh my word, we want to build this unicorn. But we're not building the individuals. We're not. Crystal's a perfect example.
No, and I think that's what I forgot building when I was up the mountain, was that I was literally focused on getting to the top. I wasn't focused really on anyone around me, although, you know, had a great team.
Yeah.
But I literally was like, okay, we're going there. Come on. All behind me. Let's go. Now I'm looking at the individual. Now I'm training the individual, and I'm sitting down with them each week and going through either through LinkedIn or through life coaching, literally making them the best version they can be. And I don't care whether they stay with me or go somewhere else. I've done my job. That is much more rewarding than having a huge big company, lots of people, blah, 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 blah.
We just make a difference. And sometimes we just make a difference. And it could be the smallest of details, but you'll never, sometimes, unfortunately, but if you do enough of these differences, you will get people come back to you and say, you changed my life. You put me on a different path.
I've had that already.
I'm saying it to you now. Yeah. You put me on a different path, and our journey together it's been amazing. Ups and downs.
Ups and downs.
I didn't realize I was pushing you that much, but I love our journey. It's a brilliant one.
Absolutely. Well, let's finish the episode off now. I think that's a perfect place to stop.
Exactly. But good on you.
I will be watching you, Steve. So anyone that's interested, follow Steve on In the Game. That's his sports podcast. And I Want to Grow is his new business podcast. Brilliant podcast. He is the man. He is the questionnaire. Probably doing a better job than I am now. So,
get on. I'm looking at your setup here and I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, this is just unbelievable.
No, come on. I upped the game because I was getting gypped from my crew before COVID. And I thought, no, if I really want to do it properly, I need to, especially when it's video, because we only did audio before. Now it's proper video. And that is our art. We're here to create beautiful video, so we've got to create a good podcast with video. So I said to the guys, set it up the way it should be.
Listen,
so thank you.
Whether it's up a mountain, whether it's through a field, I'm so glad that
rolling hills.
I'm so glad your journey is incredible, and you just keep on pushing.
No, thanks for being there with me.
Always,
I appreciate it, even though you were trying to get me up the mountain. But anyway. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, guys. Thank you for watching. And don't forget, this podcast has been sponsored by Cards in Qatar. Please check their website out for any cards, greeting cards, farewell cards, and Marhaba, the #1 destination guide. Go and get this book or go online. It's the #1 destination for Qatar to find out all the information. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.